Okay, everybody, I'm back here with part 2 of my review of Sonic the Hedgehog 214. Now, as I mentioned at the end of part 1, Luke kind of explains to Sonic that after the mass de-robotization that took place, I can't think of the issue number right now, but after the de-robotization that took place, after the mass de-robotization that is, and even after they had settled into the new land, several members of the wolf pack were unaccounted for and had gone missing. Now, Sonic has to apologize to Luke by saying he didn't want to be the bearer of bad news. Now, the Fidel Queen, of course, thinks to herself, well, this just proves that the wolf pack are treacherous people, or treacherous creatures. And it does not justify bringing them to the accursed Echidna grounds. And Sonic's like, hey, you just don't get it, do you? You just don't see the real picture. And Sonic's telling this to the Fidel Queen. Because basically, the real picture, as Sonic puts it, is the wolf pack aren't the only ones that have treacherous members that have gone to the Dark Egg Legion. They also have Fidel members, former members of the Fidel clan, who have become members of the Dark Egg Legion. And so he basically points out one of the things of the culture, saying that what they wear makes them who they are. So he asks her, what do you think these robes make these Fidel members to you? What do these Dark Legion robes make these Fidel creatures to you? And she says it makes them the vilest of creatures. The Fidel Queen, in anger, says it makes them the vilest of creatures. And she tells her warriors to show them no mercy. Now, while this is happening, Draco does agree with Razorclaw to perhaps to basically just kill Sally and get it over with. But Big suddenly shows up, and in typical Big fashion says, hey, I found the princess in the gym. I did good. And so Drago notices Big, and as Drago's about to attack Big, Sally tells Big to hit him, and he does. Big hits Drago so hard, Drago goes right through the wall. Now, after Big does this and questions if it was too hard, Razorclaw tries to attack Big, but Sonic comes to aid Big and help get Sally out of there. And Sally, of course, is glad to see Sonic, by saying, Sonic, there you are. Now, after Big and Sonic kind of untie Sally, and here we go, kind of untie her, Sonic kind of basically tells her, hey, next time you come up with a brilliant plan or something like that, or brilliant deduction, to clue him in, because it took him a while to put the pieces of the puzzle together. But Sally kind of replies to Sonic by saying, counters Sonic by saying, but you did do that. But she answers Sonic by saying, you did do it though. You did put the pieces of the puzzle together, and by doing so, you brought the wolf pack and the Fidel nations together. And that's for a timely rescue. And then, of course, she thanks him, and he says, hey, thanks him for saving the day again. And he says, hey, no, we're not done yet, but hey, you're welcome. And how do I know this? Because of this, right here, this scene, this picture right here. And again, for those that kind of question whether Ian is not trying to get them together or not, then what's that answer to you? Let me ask you this: what's that answer to you? Where do you think that came from? Ian Flynn just proved right there with just that little tender moment that he is trying to get these two together slowly but surely. Now, of course, they have that tender moment, and Big interrupts by saying, hey, I helped. By adding the fact that he helped, and Sally's like, oh, yes, you did, Big, and thank you very much. Now, while they do this, Razor Claw kind of presses a button here. I guess it's to open the entrance to the secret bunker, which he and the Dark Age Legion Fidel members and the Dark Age Legion Wolf members, along with Drago, escape to in retreat. Now, of course, Lobo wants to go after them, but Rimyard has to kind of tell him to hold his ground and not to do it. And of course, Lobo wants to know why, and he says it's because the Grand Chief, your wife, Lupe, said so. So anyway, after that is said and done, Lobo kind of asks his wife, asks Lupe, why did you let them go? Why didn't you let us go after them? And she has to say, and Lupe, of course, tells her husband, look, we only came to this area with a small part of our nation, basically a small strike force, and that they are now prepared for war. And that all they've done, which is good enough for right now, is they've broken the Dark Age Legion's hold on the place, on the Echidna ruins, and struck fear into their hearts. And that altogether it is enough for one day. Now the Fidel Queen does agree, but with the fact that the wolf pack is still on their land, basically in the heart of their territory, and that perhaps there's still a little bit of fight left. In other words, the Fidel Queen does agree with Lupe that by defeating the Dark Age Legion and basically banishing them from this area, it is enough for today, but with the exception that the wolves are still on Fidel territory. Right? And that might be enough for another kind of roughhousing, if you know what I'm saying. But Sally stops them by saying that no, by basically coming out with the ancient onyx in hand and says, no, there will be no more violence this day. Because this, what she's holding, the ancient onyx, is what you both came here for. So basically what Sally does is she goes on to explain in the fact that not only is the ancient onyx the ancestral relic, it is also a symbol of precisely what's happened today. And she goes on to say that with the ancient onyx, both nations were nearly pitched into war, and that by allowing themselves to be pitched into war, they would have been destroying each other, while the real enemy, the Dark Age Legion, would have waited in the shadows to attack at both the Fidel and the Wolf Pack's weakest point. And that the Dark Age Legion, or the Eggman Empire, if you will, saw the division between both nations and capitalized on it. And by doing so became stronger and more powerful than both nations currently were. But by coming together on this occasion to drive the Dark Age Legion out of the section and kind of tell them and the Eggman Empire that, hey, you're not just going to conquer these lands that easily, and you're not going to build chapters of the Dark Age Legion here that easily. By doing so, they showed that in a way they can coexist in peace. So Sally comes up with a proposition. That proposition is to let the ancient onyx continue to rest in the Echidna ruins, and